Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shaki and today I'm doing a very late comeback May wrap up. I don't know if any of you actually noticed, but I didn't upload anything last week. It feels like an eternity since then for me. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but I'm officially done with exams and I am free to read, to work, to play Sims and to post videos at my own pace. Which brings me on to say that I don't think I'm going to be posting every single Tuesday. I'm just going to be kind of posting whenever I have video ideas, whenever I feel like it, but there will at least be one video a week. I just don't know if it's going to be every single Tuesday. I'm just getting behind with a lot of video ideas that I want, and I have so many and I just want to not be limited to just Tuesday, which is a good thing. So maybe when the academic year starts again, I'll go back to once a week, but now it's just free reign. But that's not what this video is all about. It is going to be what I read in May. I know this is a bit late, but again, I took a week off and I'm back with what I read in May. In the month of May, I read 7 books, which is just one less of my Goodreads goal thing. Somehow, I was like 3 books ahead, so it didn't really matter. The first book that I got round to in May was What If It's Us by Abundance of and Becky Albertalli. I ended up giving this a 3.5 out of 5 stars because it was okay. It was just an average read for me. This is basically about Arthur and Ben, 2 LGBTQ+ teens living in New York City. Arthur is only in New York for the summer. His musical loving gay ass is with his mum in her, I think it's a law firm, while Ben has just broken up with his ex-boyfriend Hudson. Him and Arthur supposedly have a meet cute supposedly moment at the post office, but it doesn't end in the stereotypical Hollywood love story way, and we keep finding them bumping into each other and trying to make their romance work. So the things I did enjoy about What If It's Us were Arthur. I loved Arthur so much. He was so dorky and so obsessed with musicals and really passionate, and I feel like he was done so dirty in this book. Like, he deserved so much better. I also absolutely loved Dylan and Sam's relationship. Like, I think him and Samantha are really, they just go well together. I would have preferred much to have read a book from their points of views rather than Ben, which we'll get to in a minute. And lastly, I really did like the ideologies to do with the book and to do with love. The fact that love doesn't always work out, and I feel like the audience for this, the YA audience, I feel like they're going to get a lot from this in learning what love's all about and the fact that heartbreak is absolutely natural and you can't force everybody to be in a relationship with you and to love you. It's just not how the world works, and I feel like that's a really important message. In saying that, I do think that Ben as a character was really problematic. He was moving on from his ex-boyfriend and telling Arthur things like sweet nothings and promising him loads of stuff over the course of, you know, Arthur's stay in New York City, when he wasn't over his ex-boyfriend. And it just really irked me and got on my nerves, because I'm a very big believer in getting over an ex before you get under somebody else. It's really just not healthy for either of you, and that's why I say that Arthur deserves so much better, among many things. The miscommunications and drama of this book was so unnecessary and unrealistic. I just feel like they were there to spice up the narrative. They weren't there for cause and effect relationships, anything to do with the plot or character development. They were just there to make us gasp, to make us annoyed, and to bring something to the book. And I feel like you can do that without miscommunication and drama if you're a good author, and that's the tea. Moving on to book 2's most hyped book of last year, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is about Evelyn Hugo, who was a starlet like Marilyn Monroe in the peak of cinema, of Hollywood cinema. She is a Latina and she did everything that she could in her time to make it and to be an actress. Now that she is old and withering and she wants to tell her story and tell all of her dresses, she employs Monique Grant, a kind of like journalist, to write her biography to release when she eventually dies. Kicks the bucket, however you want to say it. I really liked this. Something that I haven't seen anyone else pick up on. Obviously we have the people of colour issues and the fact that she's Latina and she's trying to make it, and there's a lot of like race politics in this as well as LGBTQ+ness. It's very diverse. The one thing that I thought that no one else picked up on that I did is the fact that Taylor Jenkins Reid did her research in terms of film. Maybe it's just because I was studying film and this era of filmmaking at the time of reading this, but I think she did a really good job paying attention to detail, the classic Hollywood studio system, the Paramount decree, and actors and directors belonging to institutions, not the other way around. And I just think it was really, really well done. Although I did like it, I did have some problems with it. I had some problems with the pacing. In one chapter, Evelyn would be like 30, the next chapter she was like 60. I'm not sure if that's like accurate, but it seems like it did jump in terms of her age, and I found myself like, no, go back. I don't want to read about old Evelyn. I want to read about young Evelyn. In terms of story, pacing was definitely a problem, and also the fact that I didn't really 100% believe the story. Is it possible for someone to have 7 husbands all for the same reason? If you've read it, then you'll get what I mean. I can't really say anything else about my opinions on that without spoiling it, so I'm not going to say anything else about that, but you know, I didn't really 100% believe it, but I wanted to. I really, really, really wanted to. But yeah, this gained a 4 out of 5 stars from me, which is still really good. Don't say that I don't like it. I just had some problems with it, even though it was really good. The next book that I got round to reading in the month of May was The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This is basically a poetry collection full of Amanda Lovelace's poems, obviously, about heartbreak, self-love, and, you know, relationships and love and finding yourself, and I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.75 because I did enjoy it, as I said. The flow reminded me a lot of Rupi Kaur's writing, which I really, really enjoyed, no matter what anyone else says about her being a meme or her not putting enough effort into her poems. Like, who the fuck are you to say that? But the thing that made it Amanda Lovelace and not Rupi Kaur was the fairy tale twist, which I really, really enjoyed. This also centered around body image as well, and I feel like the messages that Amanda Lovelace put into the book were really important in terms of taking back your body after like an eating disorder or just a bout of self-doubt and insecurity. If you're struggling with your body image, please read this book because it will make you feel like a princess. Honestly, I felt like really empowered after reading this book. The next book that I got round to in May was An Abundance of Katherines by John Green. I read this for the readathon that I'm hosting, a year-long readathon of reading all of John Green's novels. So this follows Colin Singleton, who has dated 19 girls called Catherine. He's a child prodigy, so he isn't as inclined to be cool, and he thinks his only real attribute to his personality is the fact that he's dated so many girls called Catherine. He's came up with a theorem called the theorem of underlying Catherine predictability, where he basically has like an axis and it tells you whether you'll be the dumper or the dumpy even before you've started your relationship. Him and his Muslim best friend Hassan go on a road trip and aim to find no Catherines. They don't want to find another fucking Catherine. They want to just go and work somewhere for the summer and find a cute little Texas town to work in where all the people are really, really nice. Still no signs of Catherines. I did like this more than I expected. It was really, really easy to read, and so I gave it a 3 to 3.5 for reasons that I will say in a minute. I did really enjoy this. I really enjoyed the fact that it was so easy to read in the writing style. I also really enjoyed the footnotes. On to Hassan. I really, really liked him. He was the plus-sized best friend character that Tiny wishes he was in Will Grayson, Will Grayson. No tea, no fucking shade. I really like Hassan. He talks about being a Muslim and what it means to be religious and the fact that he isn't a perfect Muslim. And not everyone follows religion to the T. And I just really, really liked him. Because I liked this so much, it was such a shame to find some flaws in it as well. I just didn't really care for the whole tampon factory, because they go to work in a tampon factory and like interview people about the Texas town, and I wasn't really interested in any of that. I also couldn't really get my head around the maths. Every time a little diagram came up of some maths thing, I totally skipped over it because I'm not being funny. I just scraped a C in maths. I don't really care. I could have coped with the maths and the tampon factory interview storyline, but the thing that really, really got me and why I'm not rating it really any more than a 3.5 at a push, is because John Green he describes one of the women in the books as anorexic looking, and I'm not sure if anyone has reread this since, you know, our society has become more politically correct and kind of like correcting our like previous mistakes, but I just found that so uncomfortable because I myself have suffered with eating disorders and my best friend is currently recovering from anorexia, and I just didn't appreciate it. I just didn't like it. I just hated the way that he described somebody, a living human being, as anorexic looking. The next book is also a reread, and that is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. I love this book so much. So this mainly follows Grace and her 2 friends, Rosina and Erin. Grace is the plus-sized new girl who moves into the home of somebody who was raped at a high school party and is accusing all of the jocks of being misogynistic rapists, basically. Obviously, trigger warning for all of those things. If you cannot handle it, don't worry, but if you can, if you read one book this year, read this one. So it follows Grace and us as an audience member, as a spectator, following Lucy's story and Grace discovering things written on her wall and things in the newspaper, and it's just a really, really wholesome experience seeing Lucy's story like so vulnerable through Grace's eyes. I just think Grace is a fantastic protagonist. She never gives up. She never lets anyone say anything about her friends. She is the driving force of the Nowhere Girls. I love Grace so much. And then we have Rosina, who is a Latina who lives in a very busy household. She has a lot of household activities that she needs to do. She does a job, she babysits, she has a lot to juggle, as well as school and now the Nowhere Girls. She is also a lesbian. She is 100% gay and she doesn't really have a very approving mother. Her relationship with her mother is very rocky, and I felt so sorry for Rosina in this particular read. I don't know why, but I just felt for her so bad. And then last but not least, we have Erin, who is on the autism spectrum. She has Asperger's, and I feel like that is such a diverse thing that we don't really read about. Erin also has some secrets of her own. She gets quite flustered, and honestly she's quite babied by her mother and she wants to break free. I love the Nowhere Girls. Every single time I read, I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's diverse, it obviously covers a lot of interesting and important topical topics. The only kind of criticism I have of the Nowhere Girls, don't get me wrong, it's still a 5 out of 5 stars, but even the most perfect 5 out of 5 star novels can always be improved. The one thing I would say is I would have loved to see more detail go into trans women, and including specifically black and trans women. It's touched upon because as we go through the novel, we don't just get Grace, Rosina and Erin's perspectives. Every so often we get chapters called Us, and it'll be like somewhere in the town someone is googling what a clit is or how to masturbate or something like that. So we do get shimmerings of the trans and black experiences, and we also get the minority Latino experience from Rosina as a large part of the story, also the fact that she's a lesbian. But I do feel like trans women should have been more explored, because trans women and black women and trans black women are the foundations of feminism, and I feel like it doesn't ignore it because there are characters who follow those characteristics, but it could have just been more, in my opinion. It is still really important, it still does have some diversity in there, but even Rosina makes a comment about how the group isn't exactly intersectional because of the way that they live, but that's really no excuse. Amy Reed could have implemented some trans and some black characters in there. It really isn't that difficult. The second to last book that I managed to get to in the month of May was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This is the third and final installment of the original Infernal Devices trilogy, following Will Herondale, Jem Carstairs and Tessa Gray. I love all of these characters so incredibly much. Obviously I can't talk about them because it's spoiler town, but I love this series and tears were shed. And the seventh and final book that I got round to reading in the month of May was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is basically about the Poet X. It's about X who is, you know, she really wants to live her life and kind of have these lustful thoughts about certain boys and certain things in her life. She's really sick of being the centre of male attention in the male gaze by being such a big curvy girl, and always having her mum say it's kind of her fault for bringing male attention when she was born that way and she should embrace it, and people should just stop being like misogynistic and rapists. She starts going to a slam poetry club that her teacher recommends that she goes to, and she writes all of her poems in a notebook, and we're basically reading what her experiences are through verse, and I think that's such an original way. It makes it so easy and quick to read, and it's just a really interesting storytelling device. I think I gave this a 4 stars because I really enjoyed it the second time around rereading it. I think the first time I was a bit like frazzled, I was in a reading slump and it really wasn't the time for me to read this, but I reread it and I saw how fucking important it was, and I really enjoyed it. It really surprised me, and if you haven't read The Poet X yet, you definitely should. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of May. I really hope that you enjoyed my comeback wrap up. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. I make videos on this channel whenever I have time. I really hope that you stick around. I have some really good content planned for you over the summer, and now that I'm free to my own devices, I probably will be uploading way more. I'm also doing the Sims-a-thon, which is a month-long readathon by Tara over at Bianca Reads, and I'm vlogging that on my main channel where all my weekly vlogs go anyway. So I'll leave a link to the first one down below and the channel so that you can go and check them out and subscribe over there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you the next time I post. Bye!
You've got a face for a smile, you know. A shame you're wasted when you're breaking me slowly. But I've got a world of change.